Welcome to the show. It's Friday. Glad to have you with us as we get ready to roll into a weekend of no college football this weekend specifically, but of course there's plenty of NFL football coming up. The NFL playoffs, the divisional round is this weekend, so we've got that to look forward to. It's we in, we out as we continue our new tradition of we in, we out on Fridays. And I got to tell you, Vince, I kind of like this Friday we in, we out action. I don't know about you.
You know what? I'm for whatever makes you happy.
All right.
I feel like you and I have been married about as long as my wife and I. So as long as you're happy, I'm happy.
That's right. I don't even know where to go from there.
I don't either.
Okay. I guess happiness is subjective, right?
Yeah, that's facts.
Or maybe it's subject. I don't know. Yeah. I don't know exactly what it is, but we do have the national championship game coming up on Monday. Indiana and Miami. I've seen at least one of the local TV stations is jumping on the IU train, and
of course
they were at the semifinal last week, and
they're all in then. Okay,
they're in going to the national championship game.
That's it's a little bandwagonish, I would say, because it's not like they cover IU on a regular basis. I'm never a fan of when stations or publications or whatever, and this isn't a direct shot at anybody locally, but like, the bigger the game, all of a sudden now the more media members that want to be part of it, and
right.
I don't know,
because you get that a lot with Notre Dame though as well.
Oh
the indie stations will jump on the train, at the end of the season and that kind of stuff, and Chicago and yeah, exactly.
It feels a little disingenuous. It's like, hey man, you weren't here in August when we were at camp in the heat.
How many IU highlights were you showing in October?
Yes,
that's what I'd like to know.
That's exactly right. But it is what it is.
If they got the budget, I guess more power to them.
Yeah, good call.
Probably budget allocated to following Notre Dame in the playoffs this year. They didn't have to use. So
yeah. This time last year, you and I were driving to Atlanta. So
that's true.
Well,
it was actually Sunday night, but
this is true because it was after a basketball game.
Yeah. Finished Notre Dame SMU women's basketball Sunday night. I believe it was a 6:00 tip-off. I think we got out of town, a little bit after 9:00?
Something it wasn't bad.
Maybe 9:30?
Yeah, it wasn't bad.
Drove down a little south of Louisville and then hit the road the rest of the way. Monday morning, bright and early, hit those Buc-ee's on the way back. My first Buc-ee's experience.
Yeah.
Coming back someplace in Kentucky, I think it was. Maybe it was Tennessee. I don't know.
Yeah, whatever. Either way, it was a memorable experience, and we're coming up on the 1-year anniversary of said experience.
USMA says that your mic is muffled. Are you got the computer mic? Is that what's going on there?
Yeah, I was going to say it's probably just because I'm not using my normal microphone. So that's on me. I didn't pack all the equipment. This is just the whatever the MacBook has to offer.
Gotcha. All
right. Does it sound okay to you? Am I coming through okay?
Yeah, I mean, I can hear you. It's
okay.
It's not high-end quality, but you're on the air. So
I need to do a better job of packing the old microphone. I need to do better about that.
That's all right. Well, it is we in, we out day, and we've got plenty of we in, we out questions from listeners, most of them pertaining to Notre Dame football that we will answer on today's show. And let's just jump right into it right now. From Irish English, Indiana 31, Miami 20. Are we in or we out on that, Vince?
Miami 31, Indiana 20.
No. Other way around. Indiana 31, Miami 20. I don't know if I said it the other way around.
It took a second for the picture to come up on my end. It's possible. I think if I was going to predict any team in the 30s, it would be Indiana and not Miami. I think if Miami is going to win the game, it's going to have to be a low-scoring game. And so, I mean, I'd be in on that as a possible score. I could see that being the case. And like I said, if you're rooting for Miami, you do not want Indiana to score 30. You definitely want to keep them in the teens, I would imagine.
Yeah, I mean, no one has really slowed Indiana down much so far. I do feel like this is the team that's built to do it. There's a reason Miami. Maybe I did say it the other way around. Maybe I think there's a reason Miami, as the number 10 seed, is playing in the national championship game. And that is because, one, they obviously had a poor month of October, and that's the reason they ended up being the 10 seed instead of a higher seed. But two, they are built the most like Indiana at the lines of scrimmage. That's why they have been so successful. And they also have probably, when you look at and I'm not trying to take anything away from Indiana, so don't get me wrong. I'm just going through this in my head. I think that Miami probably does have the best skill talent, especially at the wide receivers, and also the best quarterback that Indiana has faced so far. Now, again, like subjective in terms of like just how good you think Carson Beck is and that kind of thing. I feel like maybe this is going to be a little bit lower scoring than 31-20, though. Kind of to your point, and that's not even if Miami wins. It's just like I feel like Miami's lines of scrimmage have the best chance to cause more problems against this Indiana team because both teams are built so well at the lines of scrimmage. So I would go out just because I think it's going to be a little like I would probably take a touchdown away from Indiana, actually, and I think it'll probably be in that ballpark, like the 24-20 range, someplace around there in regulation. I could even see it potentially getting into overtime, possibly.
Yep. I tend to agree with that. I think points could be at a premium, but at the same time, if that's the case, then Miami has a real good shot. So we'll see. I'm just hoping for a good game. We can talk about who we're rooting for later, but I'm hoping for a good game.
Yeah, Justin says Iowa slowed down IU, and I was talking more about the postseason teams that they played. But you're right. Iowa, as much as anybody. And who was that they played at the start of the season? Indiana. That like it was only like a touchdown game. Or one of the.
They struggled with Old Dominion to start.
Old Dominion, yeah, that's who it was.
They struggled, and I was like, "Oh, gonna be a long season for IU fans." I was very wrong.
Thought so as well. Another one from Irish English. Bills Seahawks Super Bowl. Are we in or are we out? I'll just say this is a Super Bowl that I would probably like to see, maybe the most of all the different potential matchups. So I would be in on the one maybe that I would like to see. I know that, you've got a rooting interest with the Bears, obviously, and I guess I wouldn't mind seeing that. But I'm probably out just in terms of both of those teams getting there. Like I've been hearing all day for really the last day and a half that apparently Sam Darnold has an oblique injury. So who even knows what's going to happen with the Seahawks as the number one seed and, the 49ers this weekend. So I'm out that it'll actually happen.
Yeah. I'm out because I don't want to see that happen. Obviously, I have a rooting interest with the Bears. I have to say, and I know that you are more of an NFL guy than I am. I have not watched the Seahawks play, and I know they're the number one seed in the NFC. I get it. They're obviously a good team. I haven't watched them play, so I don't know how I feel about the Seahawks, like in projecting them all the way to the Super Bowl. I don't know how I feel about it. I mean,
defense is really good. Yeah,
okay.
They're built on their defense, and they beat the 49ers. Same matchup they're going to have this weekend. They beat them just a few weeks ago. I think it was to end the regular season when they played, and that was a fairly well contested game. I just, I think one of the bigger questions, even without the oblique injury that Darnold has, is how much you even trust him in the playoffs after the way the Vikings bombed in the first round last year after winning 14 games. So I actually, this is not going to make you or any Bears fans happy. I'm leaning toward the matchup I think we might get is Bills Rams.
Okay.
Super Bowl.
If the Rams can get past the Bears in the cold and all of that stuff this weekend, which the Rams, last time I checked, are a 3.5-point favorite on the road in the weather that they're about to come into, which is going to be real.
Remember they played that snow game in Philly last year, and now they lost, but they almost knocked off Philly in that snow game last year.
That's a good point. but almost doesn't count. So
No, but
and
I think the weather stuff is just so overplayed. Personally,
it's not
I
even
realize they're a
snow.
dome team and they're Southern California and all that.
Just the cold, man. Like the cold makes it hard to play,
I
especially
think Kyron Williams has played in the snow before, or
Kyron
the
Williams has, but
cold weather.
yeah,
Blake Corum. There's plenty of guys on that roster who've played in cold weather before.
that's fair.
So that's just, I don't know. Do you have a Super Bowl prediction other than fingers crossed? The biggest question with the Rams, I think less than the cold, is what's their defense going to do? Because with like 5 or 6 weeks to go in the regular season, I thought the Rams might be the best team in the NFC, and then all of a sudden their defense went completely south, and that's how they ended up, falling from the top of their division to being a wild card team. So I think that's the biggest question. And then, like, what's Caleb Williams going to do in the fourth quarter? I mean, that's a thing too. And then there's this whole, with Ben Johnson and the F the Packers and the flyby handshake last week with Matt LaFleur, Sean McVay's offensive coordinator is LaFleur's brother, and McVay and LaFleur are very tight. And so apparently, like, McVay's not going to show this in front of the cameras, but he's a little juiced up, I think, for this matchup as well. So I'm curious to see, like, what that might produce in this game.
Yeah. No, that's a really good point. Look, Sean McVay is just really, really bright offensive mind, obviously, and so is Ben Johnson. And which guy is gonna be able to take advantage of the other's defense? I think that's going to be a very interesting piece of this as well. So, should be a good game. I think the 49ers Seahawks game is going to be a very, very good game as well, but we'll see how it goes.
It's we in, we out day. We're answering we in, we out questions from our listeners. And before I read this next question, here it is. I don't know what this handle is, but they say, I can't wait to hear Vince or Sean butcher my name. Ggaona. Gagona? I don't know. Like, how would you say that?
Yeah, that's where I'm at. I was just looking at it. I'm sure we butchered it, and I apologize.
Yeah. Well, whoever the handle is says, after the portal additions, are we in or we out on a national championship game appearance for Notre Dame?
Notre Dame had a very good roster going into the portal. Their roster got better. They should be a championship game contender, based on paper. That's the thing. On paper, yeah, they should be a championship game contender. There are a lot of things need to occur between now and then, and the big old injury bug is the biggest potential issue. If you start losing guys that are key and crucial to what you're trying to do, then yeah, that's going to be a problem. So on paper, yeah, they have one of the best rosters in college football.
Yeah, I'm in on them being in the playoffs next year, but obviously we have no idea even what the matchups are going to be. And like, there are plenty of other teams who haven't even completed their rosters yet. Look at Indiana. They're still obviously playing for a national championship. So is Miami. And both of those two teams haven't assembled their rosters yet. So, I mean, Notre Dame is in very good shape, is probably as good a shape as they've been in a long time. But so I'll say I'm in on the playoffs. It's kind of a hold on a national championship game because they haven't even played one game so far.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Irish English with another one. Have you seen this? So on the Champions Lounge at Irish Breakdown, the IB board, there is a thread that the title of the thread is Ignore. Yes. And Irish English says the Ignore thread on the boards is going to be deleted about the time it gets to 100 pages. We in or we out. Now, I checked this afternoon before I came in.
Yep.
And the thread was at 87 pages.
It's up to 88 right now.
88. All right.
Yep.
And it's basically just turned into everybody's putting their memes and GIFs and stuff in there. And that's just kind of keeping it going. And the funny thing is, like, this Ignore thread, the title was Ignore. And then the first, the only entry and the first entry in that thread was Ignore. and it has turned into an 88-page thread.
I guess
I'll be in though. I think Driscoll lets it get to around 100, and then maybe he just blows it up.
Because it doesn't fall off the front page.
No, it doesn't.
Which is very, very. I feel like it's the people against the man at this point, and they're going to see how far they can get.
I think you're right.
So I don't know if 100 is the round number, but I guess we'll wait and see.
Yeah. ND Blitz, we in and we out. Okay, another one. The ignore thread on the boards will go well past 100 pages and be legendary for its sophomoric mirth originating at a time of strife for Irish fans.
It's fair.
You think that happens?
I think it'll get to 100. I do, because I mean it's at 88 and it's increasing rapidly. I may have to add to it just for fun.
I don't know how to add any GIFs from my computer. That's the problem.
I'm not sure I know how to do that either.
Yeah. GIFs or GIFs or whatever, you know.
In or out on the pronunciation of GIF, whatever.
You know how that goes. From ND Blitz, we in or we out. Fernando Mendoza throws more picks than Carson Beck.
I'm actually out on that. I think both could be prone to do so. I think Beck is more prone to throw interceptions. And so I think that until he proves me wrong, that's what I think Beck is going to do. And so I am out.
Mendoza's a lot more careful with the ball and what Miami's doing with Beck. I mean, we saw it last week. They want him taking as few chances as possible. They want these screen passes. And are they going to be able to have any success doing that against this Indiana defense? We all kind of kept waiting, or at least you and Jesse and I, as we were texting back and forth, we were waiting for Carson Beck to kind of make that fatal mistake, and it never came. Yeah. And it's because he didn't have to, because it just, he didn't really have to take any chances down the field. And Ole Miss, by the middle of the fourth quarter, their front was just out of gas. They weren't able to put nearly enough pressure on him to make him have to make any mistakes. I think Indiana's going to be able to make him make more mistakes, more so than the other side. Now, again, I think Mendoza could be forced into some situations that he hasn't been forced into this year with Bain and the rest of that Miami front. And that's what I think makes this so interesting, is just the way that Indiana has bullied so many people this season. I think it's going to be a lot harder for them to do that against this Miami team, because they're both built so similarly down in the trenches.
And that's the thing. They have both gone through the playoff just bullying and being the tougher team. I mean, that's how they both have gotten to this point. So what's going to give? That's the biggest question. What's going to give? Is it going to be IU, or is it going to be Miami? Who's going to be the tougher team? I think that's going to answer your question as to who wins the game. Who's the tougher team? Who wins the trenches? I know that's such a maybe, to steal a word, maybe a sophomoric way to go about predicting who's going to win the game. Who wins the trenches? But I think that legitimately is what is going to happen in this game.
Absolutely, because they're both so good. And look, the question was about who's going to throw more interceptions, Mendoza or Beck. At this point right now, Beck has almost twice as many interceptions this season as Mendoza. I think it's 11-6 is the number. So just what the numbers tell you is it'll be Beck who ends up making a fatal mistake, especially if Miami does fall behind and has to play catch up. That's when you expect more mistakes to come. So I would have to be out on Mendoza throwing more picks than Beck, because if anything, I think it's going to be the other way around.
Yeah.
And Beck has played pretty well in these playoffs, again, because they haven't asked him to take too many chances downfield. Miami's been able to lean on that running game. And again, I think it's going to be tough. It's going to be tougher for them against Indiana, but I think that it's going to be tougher for each of these teams to do what they usually do. And that's why I think it's going to be a little bit lower scoring maybe than some people might predict. I haven't looked at what the over-under is. Have you looked at the over-under on it by any chance?
I have not. No, I only saw this. I think I saw the spread.
Let me see if I can find it here
in a minute,
real quick. The over-under is 47.5, so they're actually calling for a relatively low scoring.
Yeah, that's low score. Anything that starts in the 40s is pretty low scoring. Yeah.
Yep. So they're FanDuel is in agreement. That's where I got that. 47.5 is the over under. Indiana is an 8.5 point favorite as of right now. I like Miami to cover that.
That's a big number for a championship
is.
game.
It is. But I think it's because of just the way Indiana's pretty much destroyed
Yeah.
everybody. But they're also minus 360 on the money line. There you go.
All right.
It's We In, We Out Friday with Vince D'Addario, Sean Stiers. We're answering Notre Dame football questions and college football playoff questions and just honestly off-the-wall questions. So if you're in the YouTube chat, you can throw some in for us. We've still got rapid fire coming up in the second hour tonight. We've got Notre Dame hockey coming your way at 6:45 tonight as well. We'll take a timeout when we come back. More We In, We Out. Budweiser's Weekday Sports Beat with IrishBreakdown.com. Budweiser's weekday sports beat with IrishBreakdown.com continues. Sean Stiers, Vince D'Addario. The show has a 3-day weekend. There won't be a show on Monday because it's MLK Day, and I'll be at UConn for Notre Dame UConn women's basketball. 5 o'clock, little earlier than usual start time, but it's because of the holiday. There'll be a lot of basketball on TV that day. That's kind of traditionally how they've done it. Notre Dame women's basketball's first ever win over UConn, that 2001 season, came on MLK Day. I don't know if you realized that, but
did not.
Yeah.
Are they going to play it? Because don't they have like multiple places where the women can play? They have a smaller venue and a larger venue, or are they all?
They traditionally have played in downtown Hartford. From I think they used to play there more. I don't think they play there as much as they used to. But it'll be in stores on campus. Okay. So
gotcha.
Yeah. So that's going to the Mecca of college basketball, just in terms of success of the men's and women's programs over the last few years. But traditionally, the worst Wi-Fi in America as well in an arena. So I bought an extra Mac, like Ethernet adapter. Vince, I record my pregame interview with Neil Ivey on my iPhone. Not that anyone maybe cares about this, but just since we're talking about it, I can't even get cell phone reception in there, and there's no Wi-Fi to connect to. So I either have to airdrop it to my computer, which has to be connected via an Ethernet line, or I have to connect an Ethernet line to my phone so that I can send it. So
wow, I don't even know how to do that.
Yeah. One of the, preeminent, well, you have to have a special adapter to do it. So one of the preeminent college basketball schools in America, and literally the worst Wi-Fi in America in an arena.
So I'm guessing that your Mac doesn't even have like an Ethernet plug, so you got to get an adapter there too.
I have multiple adapters.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Okay. Have adapter will travel. Got it.
That's right. And extra Ethernet lines. And they actually also, they're not the first place to do this, but Bob Joyce, the guy who does the play-by-play for UConn, he dropped me a text last night, and he said, "Hey, we're not on the floor anymore. They've moved the radio positions up into the stands, so that'll be different."
Into the stands?
Well, there's seats around you. Yeah,
that's ridiculous. It's like high school. Sorry,
you don't have to tell me.
Good grief. Oh, okay.
Yeah, UConn. Okay, more we in, we out questions on this Friday from Critch73. Notre Dame will have a 20% increase in passing offense next season.
Okay.
I've already done the math on this. I
did too. You should be proud of me. I did the math too.
Nice. Well done.
So 255 is what they averaged this past season, which makes the math very, very easy because a 20% increase would be 50 yards, which essentially puts them at 305. So what you're asking is Notre Dame going to average 300 yards, over 300 yards passing per game. I'm in. I think that's a very real possibility in CJ Carr's second year and the beefed up wide receiver room. I'm in on this.
Totally in as well. That's not that much of a bump from one year to the next when you've got a quarterback like CJ Carr and the targets that he's going to have, and also the fact that you don't have Jeremiah Love / Jadarian Price anymore. You're still going to have good running backs, but you're not going to have the same. So I think that it makes sense, and when you factor in the competition as well, I think that it makes sense that about a 20% bump is pretty reasonable to expect.
I think that's very reasonable, actually. I guess I didn't realize that the passing game wasn't as prolific as I thought it was. Like 255 isn't chump change, but I thought it was a little bit higher. So saying that it's going to be over 300, I think, is in the wheelhouse.
Jesse's off, but coming at you.
Man.
YouTube chat. He says, "I'm surprised anyone's able to ask questions on this show. Vince doesn't answer dumb questions, apparently."
This stems from this goes back to a text message that was sent in our group. And I jokingly said, he asked a question about somebody or something. I don't want to go.
Oh, I remember that now.
And I said, come on, Jesse, you know the answer to that question. Like jokingly, like, ha, 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 we all know the answer to this question. And he took it very personally, apparently, that I did not, I guess, answer the question and agree with him when I was actually agreeing with him about it. But okay, my bad.
It's all right.
It's where like the whole texting thing, you don't get the tone. And that's where it could come to bite you. And I think it bit me.
Right. There needs to be like a sarcasm font or a special sarcasm, like of all the, the faces, like Chris has put the laughing, crying thing up here. There needs to be one that is like noted for sarcasm.
Yes, exactly correct.
Feels like they would have done that by now with all the different
because like
and all that stuff.
In this specific situation, like the question that he asked, like we all knew the answer to that question without having to ask it. You know what I mean? Like, right. Oh well, it's okay. I still love him.
Chris says, we in, we out, the glasses on Trevor make him look like the most interesting man in the world.
I got a brief glimpse of him in the glasses. It's a look. He looked, very intelligent. I guess that's what glasses do for you.
I had to go do research and find a video within the last couple days and like he started the show without the glasses, and then somewhere in the middle of the show he had them on. So I don't know what his deal is on and off. But
and then he immediately came to our show and did not have them on. So I don't.
Yeah,
I'm very confused about the glasses.
Well, that was the first place I looked, was the show that you guys did yesterday, and he didn't have them on. So
I know.
I don't know what to do. Did you tell me the other day you've got the Meta glasses, like the?
Got them right here.
Let me see.
Right. Got them right here. I had to use them today to help me translate. Actually,
kind of surprised. Does your insurance cover the Meta?
These are owned by PHM.
The glasses are owned by PHM.
We use them as translators when we have to speak to parents that do not speak English.
Oh, interesting. So they're not even prescription glasses.
No, they are regular glasses.
You're just wearing them strictly for that. So like if you're going to talk to someone who's like the English might be an issue, you just throw on the glasses and that's the deal.
And it works really, really well because it does it audibly in your ear. So you can actually hear the translation and what they're saying to you. But then it also puts it out on your phone as like a text message chain.
Yeah.
So they can see what I'm saying and vice versa. So it's actually really, really nice and worth every penny. So yeah, it's cool.
I've thought about maybe the next time I get glasses doing the Meta, but I have prescription. So
right. And they have a list. It came when I bought them, it had a list. They come without a prescription, but then it shows you like optometrists that you can take them to, and then they can put the prescription lenses in, which is cool. These are the first generation ones. The second generation ones have like a screen almost like on your eye, and it like shows stuff.
So you can actually read the transcription, or you can like Google it and it'll pop up right there in front of you.
Yeah, and I think like map directions, end up there too.
That kind of worries me, considering Siri will interrupt me, from time to time. I don't want to be driving and all of a sudden I've got like words in front of my face.
I know. Well, and that's the thing. So this does not talk to Apple devices, which is kind of an interesting. So I can't ask it to like text somebody or anything like that, but it does operate, since they're Meta glasses, it operates with like the WhatsApp app and other like Facebook and things like that. So it's like proprietary, I guess. So that's interesting. So like you can live stream, but only through like WhatsApp, for example.
Huh.
Yeah. So I can't FaceTime anybody, but I could WhatsApp somebody, apparently.
Weird.
Yeah, I know. So, but you talk to it, you just say, "Hey, Meta," and it does whatever you want it to do.
So what brand are those?
Ray-Bans.
They are Ray-Ban.
Yep.
That's curious that Ray-Ban has the Meta glasses, but they won't connect with Apple stuff.
I know.
Since it's literally like I realize there are other people who have Android. Would it connect to an Android phone if you had an Android phone?
I mean, it connects to my phone because there's an app. It has to work through the app. So like it connects to my phone. And like if I tell it to take a picture, I say, hey, Meta, take a picture. It'll do that. And then it goes onto my phone into my camera roll. So it does do that, but you can't message people and things like that.
Gotcha.
Yeah, it's cool though, because you can ask it, like, what am I looking at? You can say, hey, summarize the text that I'm looking at, and it'll do it in your ear. Like it was just talking to me, and you couldn't hear it because it's like I don't know. So it's pretty cool.
Okay. All right. There's your 5-minute ad for Meta glasses.
I know, right?
We in or we out? This is from Red Salmon's Ghost. Red Salmon's Ghost. Al Golden will be the next head football coach at Notre Dame. Are you in or you out?
I am out. I don't think that's actually a thing. I don't. First of all, obviously, Al Golden, I would assume, is unemployed right now, or aren't the Bengals looking for a new head coach?
No, they kept Zach Taylor around.
Is he still there? I apologize.
He's one of the guys that made it. Yep.
My bad.
The only guy in the AFC North who still has a job, actually, after last year. Yeah.
Al Golden's defense was pretty much awful this past year, from what I can gather. And so, I mean, good for him that he still has a job. No, I don't know that his aspiration is to be a head coach again. And I don't think he wants to come back to Notre Dame. I think that he is happy in Cincinnati. That's where his family is. If like the University of Cincinnati came open, maybe that would be something that he might be interested in. But I don't see him coming back to Notre Dame as a head coach.
I'm out as well. Of the former Notre Dame defensive coordinators who are currently working other places, and there are 3.
Yeah.
You've got Al Golden with the Cincinnati Bengals. You've got Mike Elko at Texas A&M. You've got Clark Lee at Vandy. I would put Clark Lee at the top of the list of those 3 who would have the best chance to come back. I'm not saying that he would. And, like when you talk about, if Marcus Freeman does move on and those kind of things, and obviously that's the context that we're talking about this in. But I would put Clark Lee, and even Clark Lee, if they keep having some success, if you can show you can have success at Vanderbilt, it is his alma mater. And, but like, I think that what would kind of dislodge Clark Lee from Vandy is if, all of a sudden you regress back to the mean and you're having a hard time climbing back up that hill, but you're also not nearly as in demand at that point either.
So eventually Diego Pavia is going to have to not play in college.
Right.
So, I mean, I don't know what that's going to be. Yeah. But, if Notre Dame had an opening at head coach, Clark Lee would be very high on my short list. No doubt about it. I don't think you're going to be able to pry Elko away from A&M. I mean, there's just so much money down there. There's so many. I don't see him leaving, but Clark Lee would be the one. I mean, he would be number 1 on my short list.
Yes, exactly. This next one is from, I can't see the handle there, Yamaha R1. Are we in or we out? The 2026 roster and depth chart Brian Driscoll just posted looks to be the most talented overall roster during the Brian Kelly and Freeman eras.
Oh, I think I'm in on that. I think that this is one of the more talented rosters in all of college football. And, if you're talking depth, 1, 2, 3 across the board, I think this is absolutely one of the most talented rosters in the BK/Freeman era. So that would be like the last 15 years, essentially. I think it's I wouldn't say easily the most talented, but I would say it is the most talented.
It is the most talented, like from top to bottom. When, like you said, maybe not easily, but like BK had maybe, I'm trying to think, I can't remember like what year it would kind of fall into that 18, 20 range. And even those, like when you look at his best roster, I don't think it's close to what this roster has. Yeah. Now, transfer portal is part of that as well, what they've been able to add. That's a big part of it. So I've got to be way in on this. This is easily, it's easily to me
okay,
the most the most talented roster since the Lou Holtz era. That's what I would say.
Let me ask you this, because you brought up the transfer portal, which I do think is interesting. If you took this roster prior to the transfer portal, right, would you say that this is still the most talented roster? Same question, but prior to the transfer portal.
Yeah, like I said, I think it's the most talented roster that Notre Dame has had going back to Lou Holtz.
Yeah,
So,
I mean, prior to this transfer portal, like if you take the 7 guys or whatever it is that came in the transfer portal this year, they are not on the roster. So it's just
I see what you're saying. I wasn't understanding.
I got you.
Kind of what you're saying. So take the transfer portal guys out, and is it still the most talented?
I think there's a discussion there.
Yeah, because you have to go back to Jimmy Clausen.
Sure.
In terms of the last time you had a quarterback of this caliber.
Yep.
And we're talking, about what is that? We're going on 20 years. I know it's not been exactly 20 years, but we're going on 20 years. That's what, 17, 18 years or something like that at this point, since Clausen was here, which is kind of crazy.
I mean, Trevor and I were talking about, while you're thinking about it, Trevor and I were talking about this.
I'm just going through the different positions and trying to figure out what we compare.
I was just going to say, like, we're talking about the portal and everything else. I mean, of the guys that were brought in the portal, I mean, there's a chance that 1 or 2 guys are starting for this team. I mean, that's a possibility. That's a real possibility. It could be 1 or 2 guys starting, and one of those guys is probably the kicker. So like, is there a guarantee that one of those receivers is going to start? I don't think there's a guarantee. I think there's a guarantee maybe that one of the defensive tackles starts. I don't think there's a guarantee that those corners that they brought in are going to start. So, I mean, I think they brought in some really high quality competition to compete for those starting positions.
And I would look at it this way. There is at least one guaranteed NFL guy in every position room right now.
Oh, I like that.
And I think you'd be hard pressed if you went back and looked at all these previous rosters. And again, we're taking the portal guys out of it. I think you'd be very hard pressed to go back year after year and find a guaranteed NFL guy in each position group.
And that, yeah, you're right. I think, and that's the case without the portal guys. And then you
especially like the cornerbacks and the wide receivers. Those are 2 of the most key rooms. And when you look at where they are right now compared to even 5 years ago, it's a lot different.
Yeah. It's a fun discussion to have. I fall back on when everybody was freaking out about not having anybody in the portal and all those kinds of things. It's like, there's a lot of talent on this roster, like a lot of talent. Now, they did a great job in the portal adding to the talent, right? Mm-hmm. And which takes this conversation to a whole other level, but there was a ton of talent on this roster already.
Yeah. And it's dirty Mike and the boys in Jesse's Kia. Oh, I don't know exactly
wow.
That is, but he says multiple in almost every room. And I would agree with that. And again, like, go back and like, there are some years where you're not even going to find one guy in some of those rooms. And now you've got multiple guys, probably, like I said, at least one, and probably multiple guys in every room. So big difference. Let's take our last break of the hour. We'll be back to wrap up some we in, we out rapid fire. Still coming up in hour number 2. Budweiser's Weekday Sports Beat with IrishBreakdown.com. Budweiser's Weekday Sports Beat with IrishBreakdown.com, along with Vince D'Addario, Sean Stiers. Short show tonight with Notre Dame hockey coming up at 6:45. Vince, we've got a good handful of questions to go here. Let's try to kind of move relatively quickly through so we don't leave any out, especially since we're not going to be here on Monday. So, from Domer Grizz, none of this year's portal transfers will end up being captains this season, in or out?
I mean, if you had asked me this question a year ago today, I would have said I was out. Or I mean, I would say that, let's say they will end up.
Wouldn't have thought Will Pauling was going to end up.
No, because I don't know the habits of Will. I didn't know the habits of Will Pauling. That started coming out as the offseason took place. And it was like, oh, he might be able to sneak in as a captain. I don't know the work habits of the guys that are coming in. And so I will hedge my bets and say that I'm in on the fact that none of them will be captains, because I think the odds are on that side. But somebody could come in here and live in the Goog and all of the other.
I mean, these are younger guys this year too.
Oh, that's a good point.
Year, where you had more really grad type guys last year. So I think it's going to be a lot harder.
Hey. I don't know where my bell is. I would ring it if it was here.
But maybe kind of along those lines, Domer Grizz also says at least one of this year's portal guys will end up being a captain in 27 or 28. Again, to your point, it's hard to know exactly what the work ethic and character and,
right.
like all this kind of stuff. But assuming they're all, going to still be here 2 years from now, then I think that there's at least a shot. So I'll hesitantly go in on that. But again, we don't know enough about them yet.
Exactly. Yeah. Ask me again once I know how these guys operate a little bit.
Purple and gold, spelled like a Cajun French kind of gold. Notre Dame football related. We in, we out for the upcoming season in a single game. Both Faison brothers will be on the field simultaneously, and each Faison brother will have at least one reception during that said drive.
I'm out. I don't think they'll ever be on the field at the same time unless it happens to be a special team, and they're definitely not going to have a reception there. So I'm out on this. It's just they're too far apart age-wise, and I'm not saying that Dylan Faison isn't a good player, because he is, but he would have to scratch and claw his way to get on the field at the same time as a starter.
Yeah, because the problem would be he will, like this season specifically, because you've got a senior on the one hand and a true freshman on the other hand. So Dylan Faison's best opportunity to get in the game is going to be in the fourth quarter in a blowout situation, and Jordan is going to be off the field by then. So I've got to be out. Like there might be a sliver of a chance that they could be on the field at the same time, just, like maybe to say they did it, but especially like when you add in they'll both have at least one catch. I think that just makes it too difficult to prop. So I've got it out.
I could see this maybe in the spring game for fun. Yeah. Like that's a possibility for sure. Of course, assuming that they both play in the spring game, which I think it could be 50-50 at this point. But
okay, keep moving, Vince. Let's go.
Sorry, that's the only time.
In or out, Barnaby's on Jefferson is the best pizza in South Bend.
I've never been to the Barnaby's on Jefferson.
Really?
So I will have to excuse myself on that one.
You used to go to school not far from there. I'm going to go in. Like, to me, like they're a little more generous with the toppings than the other locations, different ownership and all that kind of stuff, and especially when it's piping hot and fresh.
Yeah,
it is delicious. So I will go in.
Okay,
and
that's a hike.
I know we have no pizza places advertising, so
it's a hike for me to get down there. So
yeah, it is. It is too far for you.
Yep.
In or out, the eventual and best secondary lineup will be as follows: Leonard Moore at boundary, DJ McKinney at field, and either Gray or Golden at nickel.
For now, I'm out because I need to see McKinney and the kid from Michigan. I need to see them on the field, and I need to see them doing some things. Right now, Gray is your best option at field. Golden is your best option at nickel. And I would be in on that. But, I mean, it could change. Like, I don't know, because I can't – just based on what it says on paper, about these guys. I can't be in on that. So I'm going to say I'm out for right now.
I'm not out. Like this is like the one time that I would say hold. This is kind of what I'm leaning toward. But I think that if anything, it's got to be experimented with in the spring first, so we kind of have to see what that looks like. I do like the potential of this, but it is still potential because you do have so much experience with the McKinney, and I think with Christian Gray not being as long as any of the other cornerbacks, he's a couple inches shorter, but still pretty stout. I like the potential of him if they did move him into the slot, but again, I think that that's something that is potentially at least has to be experimented with in the spring before that becomes anything more definite. So I'm out for now, but I would technically put a hold on it. Joe wants to know about Marcus Freeman and game day. We're going to talk about that in rapid fire in a little bit. Scave, the Notre Dame defense will be elite in 26. Chris Ash will be viewed as a fantastic hire, and Notre Dame fans will forget about Al Golden. In or out?
I'm out. Nobody's going to forget about Al Golden.
If the defense dominates next year, they were, because remember, it took a little while, for people to forget about Clark Lee.
Sure.
And then, it eventually happened. So
yeah, I have an issue with the forget about. Like the other part I'm on board with. The other part I'm on board. It's the forget about part that I'm out.
They win a national championship.
Yeah.
People will forget about Al Golden because people will also remember the last national championship game, which was probably one of Al Golden's two most questionable games from a game standpoint. From E.W. Carroll, in or out, Notre Dame avoids the early season loss. I'll be in on this. I think Wisconsin is going to be in for a long day to open the season, and I think that Michigan State will not be far behind in that department.
I agree on everything you just said.
And, Rice, obviously, for that matter. From your mom's calling. Notre Dame struggled with the portal opening because Marcus Freeman was committed to family time, his son's wrestling tournament. Notre Dame didn't want to schedule kids for visits who might feel slighted by the head coach not being there to greet them as they arrived. That's why they wanted to go second with some of the early kids. In or out on that, Vince? You don't have to take too long with this because I know what your answer is.
Very, very out on that because I know for a fact that Marcus Freeman was at the facility in the morning. He left to go watch the one match and then was back at the facility. So
he didn't just check out for a whole day because his son was at a wrestling tournament.
Correct.
It had nothing to do with it. Yeah. So I'm totally out on that as well. Another one from your mom's calling. More excited to see the 26th season than any season since the 90s. In or out on that? I'll just say I was pretty excited to see last season, and it didn't quite work out the way we thought. But I think that, based on everything else, like next up, I'll go in.
Yeah, I'll be in on it as well. 90s were a long time ago. I was a kid.
Yep. In or out, Notre Dame averages greater than 27 points per game next year. I don't even know why this is a question. Like, did you mean to say 47? Because they averaged 42 points a game this year. So,
like, maybe that's defense. Like, maybe
this is an easy in, but yeah.
They gave up 17. So, like, either way, I'm in on it. Like, yeah.
One from last week, we'll wrap up. We in, we out. We didn't get to one. Chris last week submitted this. May 1st is the premiere of The Devil Wears Prada 2. Are you in or out on the sequel to The Devil Wears Prada?
I'm in on it when it comes to streaming. I'm not going to go see it in a theater.
Did you see the first one?
Oh, yeah, I've seen it.
Is that one in your house, like repeat viewings, or like where was your wife on that?
No one has ever seen it in my house.
Really?
Guaranteed. There's no way.
I think I've seen the first one once. I'm not a huge Anne Hathaway guy. Okay. I'm a big Emily Blunt fan. I'll tell you that. I just watched it
early.
Yeah.
That was real early.
That was early Emily Blunt, but yeah. And she didn't have quite as big a role, but I think she's still going to be in this one.
Yeah,
so,
I believe so. Yeah.
Yeah. Have you ever seen The Edge of Tomorrow? Have I asked you this before?
I believe isn't that the one about the end of the world or the
Tom Cruise, Emily Blunt. It's a combination of war, sci-fi, and Groundhog Day. Like all rolled into one.
No.
You need to find it.
Okay.
Edge of Tomorrow.
Got it.
Highly recommend. Probably Cruise's most underrated movie.
Ooh. Okay.
Emily Blunt might be her best performance.
Okay. Noted. I'm writing it down right now.
Yeah, good stuff. Edge of Tomorrow. Write that down. There you go. NH agrees with me. I just rewatched it the other night. Very good stuff. All right, we'll take a timeout. When we come back, rapid fire comes your way with Vince D'Addario, Sean Stiers, Budweiser's Weekday Sports Beat with IrishBreakdown.com. Welcome to Hour 2, Budweiser's weekday sports beat with IrishBreakdown.com. And Vince, that means it's rapid fire time. If you are ready, sir.
Let's roll, baby. Let's roll.
Here we go. Fill in the blank. The Athletic asked 100 people. I feel a little bit like I'm doing Family Feud right now. The Athletic asked 100 people.
As long as you don't try to kiss me, we're in good shape.
That's right. To rank the 5 leaders they most admired in 2025. It's blank that Marcus Freeman came in at number 20 on their ranking of the top 40 most admired people in sports this year.
It is impressive, but not surprising. I think he strikes a chord with a lot of different people and a lot of different aspects of, the community, of the nation, all of the above, right? I think I do feel like my wife knows who he is. You know what I'm saying? Like a lot of ladies know who Marcus Freeman is.
The ladies like Marcus Freeman. Right? I can tell you that.
A lot of coaches really respect Marcus Freeman. The young players
in different sports as well.
Yes, absolutely. So I think it's not surprising, but it's still impressive.
And they explained, the Athletic did, they picked the phrase most admired to leave it intentionally vague. So you don't because you don't have to know someone to actually admire them.
Right.
And they also said these people had to be either an active coach, player, or executive in 2025. So like Nick Saban was not on this list. Coach K, all these traditional guys were not on this list. And they said you can admire leaders for different reasons, the way they communicate, the way they handle adversity, the spotlight, and, all these different things. And they talked to, they surveyed, like former coaches, former athletes, executives, a pretty good cross section. So I think it just speaks to the reach that Marcus Freeman has. And I mean, there's a reason that, yes, he is in demand in NFL circles. And there's a reason that you've heard so many people within the last year and a half, like I've always you hear him say it, I've always hated Notre Dame, but man, Marcus Freeman makes me like him, so it's like, you can see why he would show up pretty high in this kind of survey. And they actually had a quote from Muffet McGraw, who was one of the people they polled. And McGraw said that Freeman puts players first, focusing on developing the whole person rather than just the athlete by clearly articulating his vision and living it every day. He has built a championship culture that players believe in and are eager to be part of. So, I mean, I think that there's probably a lot of people who feel that way.
She's right there. She's she's still on the inside, let's be honest. So, I mean, she hears what people have to say, and that's obviously also her opinion. So
I'm going to guess Gino Auriemma was not high on her list, by the way.
I would say that's probably accurate. You're not going too far out on the limb on that one.
2 other college football coaches came in on this poll survey. Dan Lanning, Oregon head coach, at number 30. Curt Cignetti at number 37. I mean, I guess you can see why Cignetti, again, like when you look at someone who's done what he did and, turned around a complete loser of a, program into what it is, playing for a national championship. But Brian Hoyer, former NFL quarterback, one of the people, he says this right here sums it up. He's confident but not cocky, and his players embody that. I don't know.
He's talking about Cignetti.
He's talking about Curt Cignetti.
He's not paying attention.
Overboard cocky.
Yeah.
I mean,
yes.
And I think, wouldn't most IU fans cop to that? Like, wouldn't most?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And they'd be okay with it because, he's their guy and all those kinds of things. And he has backed it up for the most part. But yeah, he's absolutely, and I think he would tell you he's cocky.
I think so as well. I mean, just Google him, right? Like
that is the cockiest statement you could possibly make in a press conference.
Yeah.
He's like, I just win. Google me.
To me, Cignetti is like the AJ Pierzynski of.
That's a great analogy, by the way.
Like the guy, like when he's on the other team, you cannot stand him, but he's the kind of guy that you want on your team.
Absolutely.
Right.
I've never been happier than when he got punched right in the nose during the Cubs White Sox game.
Not Signetti, Pierzynski is who he's talking about.
Right, yes. Yes. But like that was a good day to be a Cubs fan right there. Yeah.
Kyle Schwarber and Mookie Betts tied for number 40 on this list. I found it interesting that Schwarber showed up.
And he's an IU guy. That's why he's feeding off of the Signetti love.
Maybe so. Here's the top of the rankings. Steve Kerr at number 1, Don Staley number 2, Steph Curry number 3, then Gino Auriemma, Andy Reid, Sam Presti, Emma Hayes, who is a U.S. women's soccer coach, Dan Campbell, Asia Wilson, Mike Tomlin. That was the top 10. So Mike Tomlin got in just before he stepped aside from the Steelers.
Yeah.
Interesting list. Most admired. John wants to know where Brian Kelly was ranked.
He's not a current coach. So he was ineligible for the list.
Well, he was. Now, they actually did this in November and December. So technically he coached in 2025, but by the time they did this poll, he was out of a job. So maybe he didn't qualify. I don't know.
I was trying to be nice.
So again, we won't have a show Monday because I'll be at UConn for a 5:00 game with Notre Dame women's basketball. College football national championship game is Monday night, Indiana and Miami. A lot of Notre Dame fans are having a hard time figuring out, Vince, who they're going to root for in this game. And we had an Irish Breakdown subscriber on the Champions Lounge say he thinks that having 3 straight national championships from the Midwest would be good for Notre Dame because it gets college football further from the idea that you have to be in the southeastern part of the country to win a championship. Therefore, he is pulling for Indiana to beat Miami. Do you buy or sell that line of thinking?
That's digging really, really deep for a reason to root for one team or the other, in my opinion. I don't subscribe to that theory because I feel like it's college football versus the SEC, and the SEC's out, and the SEC is not going to win a national championship here. So no, that is not a good reason for me to root for Indiana. Sorry.
Well, wouldn't you I would personally rather say, as much as there's obviously a lot of animus with Notre Dame and Miami, especially the fan bases with everything that's happened in the last few months. And, even going back year after year and, it really helped stir up some of that stuff. Notre Dame's going to face Miami next year. But wouldn't you rather say that at least if we didn't make the playoff, we lost to the team that won the national championship, as much as it stings that it would be Miami. If you were going to be kept out of the playoff, wouldn't you want it to be to the team that ultimately won the title? Now, granted, there's still the other side of that. That's well, we deserve to be in, and we had every right to think that we could have won a championship as well. But to me, there is still that you could kind of cling to.
For some reason, it's always bothered me when people are like, well, at least we lost to the champion like that. I don't know.
You don't like that, huh?
I don't. It's just an excuse for losing. That doesn't work for me.
Well, at the end of the day, that's why Notre Dame's not in the playoff.
Well, right? I get it. No, listen, I totally understand it. I get it. And that at least maybe allows Notre Dame fans to cope with the fact that they're not in the champion, they didn't make the playoff and all of those things. I hope that most Notre Dame fans have turned the page and they're looking forward at this point, having this game right here.
I think most are now after this portal, after all the portal angst and after things finally, played out right in the portal, like we said that they would ultimately. Yeah. I think more fans are looking toward next year now, but I think that part of what kept people looking back so much was just all the drawn out blowback on everything Notre Dame. And to be quite honest, especially if you look at social media, some Notre Dame fans just need to pipe down and stop reacting to everything and stop going at some of these other fan bases and just stay in your lane a little bit, focus on your team and not worry about all this other crap.
Yeah, just watch, if you're going to watch the game, you can just count how many times they bring up Notre Dame because it will be many. And just know that Notre Dame is one of the most relevant names out there. And even though they haven't played a game since Thanksgiving, they're still going to be brought up during the national championship game.
Correct. And, the other side of this too, from if you're looking at Indiana winning the title, it would be the 3rd straight for the Big Ten. And to me, it just continues to perpetuate the myth that
Yes.
the Big Ten is this great, deep conference that is just so tough. It's a top conference. It is a top-heavy conference. Purdue has played the toughest schedule of any Big Ten team the last 2 years. They're not playing for a national championship. I went back and looked. 15 Big Ten teams had at least 4 losses this year. That's every Big Ten team that didn't make the playoff ended up with at least 4 losses this year. 6 of them had losing records. That's a third of the conference.
Yeah.
Go back to 2024. 13 Big Ten teams had at least 5 losses that year. 7 of them had losing records. Does that sound like the toughest conference in America to you?
Yeah, we don't need to get more ammo.
They're just very top heavy. They've had some really good teams in the last few years, but if Indiana wins this championship, all anyone's going to talk about is how great the Big Ten is. And it's just not true.
And I'm over I am so over that conversation about the Big Ten, because the Big Ten is so much more top heavy than the SEC. And the SEC is taking their lumps. You know what I mean? And I mean, how many good Big Ten teams are there? 4, maybe 4 out of
4 really good teams. And there's a handful of even average, above average type teams. There's just a lot of really bad teams.
There's a lot of garbage. Yeah, there's a lot of garbage there. The Big Ten is not a good conference. They're just not. So that's a great reason not to root for IU. Thank you, Sean.
You're welcome.
Yeah,
you're welcome. Okay, speaking of the national championship game, fill in the blank. It's blank that Marcus Freeman will be a guest analyst on ESPN's College Game Day before the title game Monday.
It is representative of the fact that Notre Dame is the most relevant brand out there. And they want him on there. And I get it. I understand why he's doing it, because no matter how much we all talk about how much we hate ESPN and they're all, the narratives that they drive and all these things. I get it. But here is the reality. He knows what kids are watching.
Yes.
They're going to be watching the national championship. Having his face on there, even though Notre Dame's not playing in it, it's not a bad thing. Okay.
Opportunity to sit in front. Like that's what people are going to be watching.
Yeah.
Monday.
100%. And they're going to be talking about
the basketball game.
Well, of course, but that game will be over by the time the games start, so they'll be talking about Marcus Freeman. And that's all Notre Dame fans should want right now. You are relevant. And the fact that he's being asked to do it means he's relevant as well.
See, I disagree with this. JNCC Cat. I don't know what that is, but so they're just going to use it to talk crap about Notre Dame. They're not going to do it to his face while Marcus is on there. It's going to be all glowing stuff about Marcus Freeman. If anything, it's going to be the opposite. They're going to talk about, the great job that Marcus Freeman has done. They'll obviously ask him about missing out on the playoffs and his team and all. It's going to be free advertising for Marcus Freeman and the Notre Dame program while they're not playing in this game that they were playing in a year ago. It is great exposure for him. So I know a lot of fans are mad and they don't want him doing it, but I think it's great. Yeah. Stymie says, they want Notre Dame viewers. Absolutely.
Yeah.
But also Marcus Freeman will take the free publicity by sitting on the show that everyone's going to be watching if you're a college football fan on Monday.
The ND,
you can tell recruits I was on game day.
And the ND quote unquote hate will happen during the game, not during pregame. Like that's right. When you get it.
Right.
Yeah.
Few different questions in the YouTube chat. Brian Sullivan asks, I know it's early. Does anyone have any indication what dates being thrown around for the spring game? We have heard nothing so far. We don't know when spring practice is going to start. We don't know when the spring game is.
Nope, none of it.
Probably be another few weeks before we really start to hear that.
Yeah, I don't know that we'll hear anything until March.
Well, we expect it's going to start sometime in March.
It just depends on, in the past, sometimes they do a practice or two before spring break.
Right.
Then they have spring break and then they come back and they do more. So how are they going to do that? They didn't do that last year, but they were playing up until the end of January. So it just depends on how they break it down. So you'll know when we do.
Time Cone 57. Does CJ come back for a third year? Analyst throwing around this 30 start minimum for a quarterback to last in the pros. Well, I mean, if they get to the national championship game next year, then he would be somewhere around 26 starts. I mean,
28. maybe at 28 starts because he started 12 games this year plus 16.
Oh, okay.
But
would it
to
be
your
16?
point,
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
to your point,
My
though,
math was bad. Sorry.
hey, believe me. To your point, the fact that he would be at 28, I mean, he's in the neighborhood of 30. Like that is not like a defining number on as to whether you're going to have success in the NFL or not. I'm sorry. Maybe that's what it kind of shakes out to with guys that have had success and not. But guess what? Once you decide that somebody in the NFL has had success, they've been there for a little while. When they were in college, it was a completely different game. Completely different. So I just don't think that is a comparable stat right now in this day and age.
Yeah, and where Carr is ahead of the curve on a lot of these guys is what he can do at the line of scrimmage already as a first-time starting quarterback this season in terms of what he's seeing and checks and calls that he could make at the line of scrimmage. Like you could far more advanced than most guys. Like Julian saying nowhere in the ballpark. Arch Manning had more experience than CJ Carr coming into this season. Who had the better season? Carr, Manning. It was Carr. So, like if I'm going scale of 1 to 10, him coming back for a third season or a 2 more seasons, which would basically be his fourth then at that point.
Yeah.
Is he going to play at Notre Dame in 27? I would put it at a 2.5 right now.
I'm at a 2. I'm at a 2 just because, is there a chance he goes out and he has the season that everybody's predicting, by the way? Everybody's predicting a national championship run, right? So does he come back after that to quote unquote leave a legacy? I mean, it's possible. It's not likely. That's what I would say, because how can you,
especially if they do win a championship, like what other legacy do you need? If they win a championship this season, what other legacy is there? 2 championships?
Right. I just don't, unless he really just loves being in college, how do you up your stock anymore at that point? Because if he goes out and wins a title, if he goes out and wins a national championship, I would say the odds are better that he's the number 1 overall pick in the NFL draft. That's a higher percentage than it would be that he would come back.
Renee, who was in the chat earlier, I believe this is our Utah listener, who said that they have season tickets to Notre Dame women's basketball and fly in for at least some of the home games, says thoughts on the rest of the season. And this is tough because no matter how many times I say things, it feels like it falls on deaf ears. It's kind of become like the transfer portal. I think like everyone just wants to panic with, every time they lose a game. I'll say this. They lost to Louisville last night. I was actually pleasantly surprised with how they competed with Louisville, especially considering Louisville's depth, the depth advantage that they have. A loss is still a loss. So I'm not talking about moral victories by any means, but it was a 5-point game with 7 minutes to go. And the bottom line last night was Notre Dame played fairly well offensively most of the night. Didn't have a great offensive fourth quarter. The biggest thing came down to defense. They just couldn't get the stops that they needed because like Ayanna Moore would hit a 3, Louisville would come down and match the 3 at the other end. They just needed a little bit better defense. And the numbers are what the numbers are. And I've just said over and over and over again, they may lose 8 to 10 games, but they also will be in the NCAA tournament. Like just figure out the math the rest of the way. They've got 4 ACC wins right now. 9 wins get you to 500 in the conference. 10 wins put you 1 game over 500 in the conference. And if they're in that ballpark, which I think they're going to be, they're going to be in the NCAA tournament. Does that mean they're going to make a deep run? Well, crazier things have happened.
Sure.
So much of it depends on the matchup. Like they were in that game though last night. Didn't go the way that they wanted. They just needed a little bit more defense. They couldn't quite get it at the end. Louisville's a really deep team and a really good team. It's not going to get any easier Monday, but again, like this isn't going to look like the last few years. I mean, obviously we can look at the roster and we all know that it's not what it was the last few years. I would say this though, because everyone's reacting to what I've said from the beginning was going to be a transition season for Niele Ivey and this team. Muffet McGraw, after winning her first national championship in 2001, had a run of like 10 years with first and second round and Sweet 16s as the ceiling for those teams before, she reemerged and went into, on this run of Final Fours and national championship games and ultimately winning that second. I don't think that it's going to be quite as long in between for Niele Ivey because there's a pretty good recruiting class that's coming in next year. And so this is going to be, as I've said all along, a transition year, but there's still a tournament team. Yep. And that's what it's going to come down to.
Yep. You just might have to travel for the first couple of games.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Yep.
So I don't know what else to say beyond that because, again, it's like I know a lot of people are upset and they should have been this, they should have been that. Like when you look at the transfer portal, I know I've talked about this over on IB before, but there were a couple transfers who really wanted to come to Notre Dame and who Notre Dame really wanted. They weren't able to get them though because their transcripts, they didn't get enough credits to transfer. They were undergrad, because they were undergrad type transfers, didn't have their degrees yet. I'll be curious to see if what Marcus Freeman and the football team was able to do translates into, for the two basketball programs going forward. Does that mean maybe things will be a little bit more open for them in terms of being able to get some players in? So We'll find out. So I've been wanting to talk about this week. We haven't had a chance. And there's a chance that the college football playoff could expand to 16 teams this upcoming season. We are about a week away from the deadline for when they've got to decide. January 23rd, a week from today, is the deadline. There's momentum for the field to expand, but the Big Ten, of course, is the sticking point. Their commissioner, Tony Petitti, wants a 24-team format, while SEC Commissioner Greg Sankey just wants the 16-team field. And according to Heather Dinich from ESPN, Petitti would go for a 16-team field this year, but only if Sankey would agree to expanding it to 24 teams 2 or 3 years down the road. And of course, you might be saying, well, why are these two the guys calling the shots? Because they're the guys calling the shots, because they're the Big Ten and the SEC, and they hold all the power in the room, good or bad. So are you good with a 16-team field if it expands to that? That would be 4 rounds, and no one would have a bye. It would be 4 rounds, so you might even have 2 rounds of games on campus if you went to 16.
I'm fine with 16. I think that is by far the biggest that it should ever be, because we're talking about teams with a legitimate chance to win a national championship. Even having 12, I think we can all agree that not everybody even has a chance at winning a national championship. At 16, obviously that makes it bigger. There's 4 additional teams. If you just look at this year, that means Notre Dame would have been in. I think they had a legitimate shot of winning a national championship. That gets them in. That this isn't the same every single year, right? That's not always going to be the case. If you expand to 24, that's just ridiculous. I mean, you're going to have blowouts galore if you expand to 24, and that's just not good. That's not good TV.
Yeah. Now the 24-team field, there would be 5 rounds. Like I said, the 16-team field would have 4. So you go to 24, I think you've got to get rid of the conference championship games for one, because now there's an extra week that you've got to do it. So you would have 5 rounds. The top 8 teams would get a first-round bye, and then you would have the quarterfinals after that, and then the semifinals and the title game. So the top 8 teams would get a bye, which means you would have, the rest of those 16 teams playing first-round games on campus site. So you'd have a lot more.
Too many.
I want you to think about it this way, because theoretically, I agree with what you're saying. It feels like 24 is too much. 16 feels like the right number. Think about this from a purely selfish Notre Dame standpoint.
Okay.
Like the scheduling thing. If there really are more teams like USC, for one thing, if it expands to 16, that memorandum of understanding that, supposedly so many people are upset about, that goes away, because the MOU only applies if it's a 12-team format or a 14-team format. If it goes to 16, Notre Dame doesn't get that guarantee anymore because it's now it's 16, and in theory there are more spots, so you don't need that same kind of guarantee potentially. So that goes away. But the way I look at this from a Notre Dame perspective, the bigger the playoff field, the less these other teams have to worry about, like a USC, for example. The whole USC, well, we don't want to play Notre Dame because that could cost us a college football, playoff spot. The bigger the field, I think the less there's more incentive still for these teams to continue scheduling Notre Dame down there.
I see what you're saying. So the bigger the field, the more chances you have to schedule better opponents.
Right. Yeah. Because if it goes to 24, you're going to have 4 and 5 loss teams that are in the playoffs.
Which is awful.
Right.
That's awful.
Which is why you really don't want 24. But again, if you're Notre Dame and you're trying to make sure that you're still able to schedule all these teams down the road, the bigger the field, the easier theoretically it should be for you to continue to not have issues with USC should say, okay, we're going to jump back on the schedule now, because that's not really a worry at this point. Then it's really just what the dates are that you're going to play them.
I see where you're at. I see I understand what you're saying. I guess I'm at a point at the moment where I agree with what you're saying, but I'm also going to say that
right. And I agree with what you're saying. 24 is just too much.
Too much. That's
and the reason they want it is because, again, Petitti really wants these. I don't know if these, play-in games in his conference would actually take, because he wants more slots guaranteed, and that's what it's all about. It's all about the greed. He wants to be able to have more product to sell to Fox, so that Fox can televise more meaningful games and basically give the Big Ten Conference more revenue.
If you had 24 teams, the odds of you being able to watch every game are slim, because you're going to get games going on at the same time. You know what I mean? And I don't want that.
You have to play those out over like 3 or 4 days.
Gosh.
Not even a weekend.
No question. And so I don't like it for that reason. I think that people worried about scheduling Notre Dame, like people think that nobody's going to schedule Notre Dame and all these different things. I'm not saying that's you. I'm saying in general, like until that starts to happen, I'm not worried about it, because right now there's a laundry list of teams that want to play Notre Dame.
No, and I agree with that, but I do agree that it could become more difficult if the field stays, especially if it stays at a 12-team field. I think at some point it's going to go to 16, but the smaller it stays, I think it could be difficult for at least some teams. There's always going to be plenty of teams who are going to be willing to jump on, because they know if they get a home and home with Notre Dame, it's pretty much a guaranteed sellout, and and both of those games are going to be on national TV. And many of those programs, like a BYU, for example, and an Auburn, like they know that's good for them. But I do think that there will be some stick in the muds who, kind of have their axe to grind with Notre Dame, who aren't going to be as in on that.
I think it's inevitable that this thing gets bigger than 12. It just depends on how they're going to negotiate it and when it's going to happen. Not if, it's when. I just really hope that they cap it at 16 and we're not having this conversation about 24. That's ridiculous. That'd be like taking the NCAA tournament for basketball and making it like 128.
Right.
That's the comparison for me, because the 120th team has no shot of winning a national championship. What are we doing?
Right. Because then you're just saying, and that's, again, we all know that to many of these people, it's just a TV show anyway. Like just look at the way ESPN treated the selection process and the selection show every week. And when you look at what Big Ten Commissioner Tony Petitti wants to do, he's pushing for this 24-team field because it's more TV product, and because they can suck more money, siphon more money out of the TV partners. He's trying to get Fox more involved with it. And like theoretically, I think it would be, and we can talk about this a little bit next week, I do think that it would be good to get more TV partners involved, just not at the expense of an actual competitive playoff format.
Yes, agreed. No, I'm with you there.
So, Vince, Joel Klatt says the national championship game should be at the Rose Bowl every year. Do you buy or sell that?
That's a huge sell for me. And maybe it's because I don't spend a lot of time in California. I've never been to the Rose Bowl. The obsession with the Rose Bowl is a little much for me. I think the national championship game needs to be in different places every year. I'm cool with that. A neutral site like Vegas or whatever. Like, I honestly don't even know that it should be at Miami, for example. I think it should be in like an NFL stadium or something along those lines.
Technically, Miami is also an NFL
That's
stadium.
a good point. That's a solid point. But it's also a home game for Miami. I know, what are the odds? But like, I just think it should be more NFL. But whatever. It should definitely not only be at the Rose Bowl. I just don't understand the obsession. I don't. The Rose Bowl is for the Rose Bowl. That's it.
Yeah.
That's it.
For years and years and years, everyone, college football bent the knee and let the Rose Bowl have its 5:00 kickoff so that halftime the sunset could be on TV and everything else. And then look what happens this year. You get a freaking rainstorm and you didn't get a sunset, and so, we're going around and bending all these schedules just to have a sunset on TV. And I completely agree. Like, if you want, look at the participants in the game right now. Like, you've got these last 2 years, you've got new blood in the college football playoff because the field has expanded. You've got teams from the West Coast. You've got teams from the southeastern part of the country. You've got teams from right in the middle of the country who are all part of this. And because of that, you don't want to have the championship game in the same place every year. It needs to be just like the Super Bowl. It needs to move around all over the country.
Agreed.
to give different cities the opportunity to host an event like that. And also just because of the fact that you have so many fan bases from different parts of the country involved, it doesn't need to be in one place every year. And Los Angeles, every big city to some extent is hard to navigate, but Los Angeles is one of the hardest cities in the country to navigate, just with a horrible gridlock and traffic out there. USMA 87 was, in the chat earlier. I'm sure that he can vouch for that. Although he might be more Northern California now that I think about it. But yes. So I'm out on the Rose Bowl.
Yeah, big time out.
They're involved in the playoff. That should be enough.
Right. Exactly.
I don't know where else to go at this point, Vince.
We're about there.
Down now.
I think we're knocking on the door, aren't we?
I think so. We're about to wrap it up. We were going to talk about this whole rule, that I guess it got tabled, that the redshirt rule. They decided to put that on the shelf.
The reason I know that is because my son got an email from the compliance department, and because they were kind of being kept in the loop and the whole deal, and they decided to table it for 2 years. Actually, he and I had a really good discussion about it. It's like, okay, if they're going to go to 9 games, the D2 schedule is an 11-game schedule. So it'd be like, hey, coach, can I sit out like 2 games so I can retain a red shirt? And the coach would probably be like, yeah, you can sit out the Kentucky Wesleyan game that we're going to win by 3 touchdowns. Like, no problem. We'll let the backup kicker take those shots, and then you get an extra year of eligibility. Like, why would you not do that? You know what I mean? Like, 9 games is ridiculous. But, yeah, they're also talking about the 5 for 5. Basically, you're in school for 5 years. You can play all 5. I'd be down with that. I think that makes sense, but nothing changes for a couple years.
Yep, there he is. USMA.
There he is.
Can confirm. LA traffic is horrible.
Love it.
I mean, that's all the time, basically. All right, again, no show Monday. We've got Notre Dame UConn women's basketball, 4:45 pregame Monday afternoon, 5:00 tip-off out in stores. So I will obviously be there for that. We'll be back on Tuesday, and of course the national championship game Monday night. Everybody have a great weekend. Plenty of NFL playoffs to get you through. 2 games tomorrow and 2 games on Sunday as well. Vince, I will talk to you later, sir.
Yes, sir. See you next week.
All right. Sounds good. We've got Notre Dame hockey coming up next. Tyler Reedy will have the call. The Fighting Irish taking on Penn State tonight at Penn State. So that is just around the corner here. Budweiser's Weekday Sports Beat with IrishBreakdown.com. Talk to you later.